Stop. Do not scroll past this. The Holy Spirit has prepared a word for you, and this is your moment of interception. What you are feeling right now, that low-grade anxiety, that sense of a missed opportunity, is not your imagination. This is the echo of a spiritual collision that just took place, and the reason you stopped scrolling is because your spirit recognizes the sound. This message was dispatched for you, specifically, and its arrival at this exact second is a sign of its urgency. You believe it was an oversight, that thing you let pass by within the last 24 hours. For some of you, it was a baited conversation you refused to enter. For others, a notification you swiped away without reading, an email you did not respond to, or a sudden sharp impulse to defend your name that you simply let die in your throat. You chose silence not out of strategy, but out of exhaustion, and a quiet guilt has been following you ever since. You feel you have failed a test. A subtle voice has been whispering that you were not on, that you let something slide, that by refusing to engage, you have delayed your own blessing. It is the familiar accusation for the watchmen, the intercessors, the ones who feel the weight of spiritual responsibility. It is the lie that tells you that your rest is idleness, and that your silence is surrender. The Father sent me to tell you something that will realign your entire understanding of this day. He says, that was not an oversight, that was not a failure, that was your enthronement. The moment you refused to step down into a battle that was beneath you, you passed a final critical test. You proved you could be trusted with a higher form of authority, one that does not engage every dog that barks at the chariot wheel. What you felt was not a failure, it was a qualification. It was a final exam on your ability to hold your peace under provocation. For years, every skirmish has demanded your energy, your attention, your response, but something in you has shifted, something has matured. You have been in a season of such intense pressure that you have learned to conserve your oil, to protect your flame from the wind. The enemy placed an invisible tripwire on your path today. It was a carefully crafted, custom-designed provocation meant to snag a soldier who is rushing, who is distracted, who is still trying to prove their worth by fighting every battle. It was designed to pull you down from your position of authority into the mud of argument and self-defense, wasting your energy and delaying the very breakthrough that was at the door. But a profound maturity has been forged in you through the long season of waiting. Your spirit, without a conscious command from your mind, recognized the trap. It identified a battle that was beneath your new rank. You were so focused on the horizon, on the promise that is coming, that you stepped right over the wire without even breaking your stride. You did not ignore the test out of weakness. You transcended it through focus. This is the anatomy of the test you just passed. It was not about what you did, but about what you refused to do. It was a test of your posture, your peace, your internal sovereign ground. You were provoked to act like a soldier, but your spirit responded like a king. You stayed on your throne, and that act of royal silence was a non-verbal decree that changed everything in the realms you cannot see. If this word is already landing in your spirit, if you recognize the echo of this very specific event, type, "I am here," in the comments below. This is not for platform engagement. This is a spiritual act of showing up. It is your declaration to the courts of heaven that you are present and accounted for, ready to receive the debriefing on the victory you have already secured. I have been sent to explain the spiritual law you just activated. Because you refused to step down into that battle, you cleared the entire pathway for God to act decisively on your behalf. You have misunderstood the silence that followed. It was not the silence of failure. It was the hush of heaven right before a major move. But I have not yet told you the most important thing. Before we go any further, I need you to create a space. If you are able, find a quiet room. If you cannot, then create a quiet room in your spirit. Silence the notifications in your mind. Close the door to the anxieties of the next hour. What I'm about to share requires your undivided attention because heaven is about to provide the evidence for the claim I have just made. This is not a generic list of encouragements. This is a specific forensic checklist of the spiritual activity that has been surrounding you for the last 90 days. As I list these signs, you will recognize them not as concepts, but as events. This is how you will know this word was sent for you. This is your confirmation. The first sign has been a sudden and at times unsettling sense of detachment. You have found yourself looking at situations that would have once sent you into a spiral of anxiety, and you have felt a strange calm. You mistook it for apathy or exhaustion, but it was neither. It was the first evidence of your ascension. Your spirit was learning to operate from a higher altitude, above the turbulence. The second sign has been the echo of old prayers. In recent weeks you have remembered, with startling clarity, requests you laid before God years, even decades ago. These are not random memories. This is the sound of your case file being opened in the courts of heaven. The things you thought were forgotten are being brought forward for final review and execution. The third sign is a new and profound distaste for noise. You have felt an almost physical aversion to meaningless chatter, to gossip, to the endless scroll of outrage. Your spirit is instinctively curating a space of quiet. This is not you becoming antisocial. This is your spirit preparing the environment required to hear the final quiet command that unlocks the next dimension. The fourth sign is that the test you just passed was not the first of its kind. Think back. Over the last few months there have been a series of almost arguments, almost conflicts, almost moments where you nearly stepped into a trap, but pulled back at the last second, not even knowing why. Those were not coincidences. Those were final drills for the graduation exam you just aced. The fifth and most crucial sign has been a fleeting, inexplicable glimpse of your future. For a split second you saw it. A mental image, a feeling, a sudden knowing of the peace that is coming, completely disconnected from your present reality. It felt random, like a daydream. It was a strategic leak from the Holy Spirit, a glimpse of the horizon meant to steady you for this exact moment. These 5 signs are not isolated events. They are markers on a hidden timeline, the choreography of your enthronement. They prove you have been in a season of intense covert preparation. The victory you secured by ignoring that provocation was not an accident. It was the culmination of a deep, internal shifting that God has been orchestrating in you for years. You were able to see the horizon, even for a second, because your training had finally conditioned you to stop looking at the ground. You have been